This content was created purely for entertainment and informational purposes. The creators of this vlog do not endorse drinking and driving, debauchery, underage drinking, public intoxication, speeding, street racing or any other form of delinquency. I'm just a guy, with a drink, talking about cars. Please don't take this too seriously.
Back once again, it's your boy, the Fat Man, the Africanized Honeybee, the Car Guy Blog 05 at gmail.com guy, the word zero, Z-E-R-O, the number 5, fifth, the word car, C-A-R, at 05 Car on Instagram, at 05 Car on Facebook, not at 05 Car on Twitter because Elon Musk, that's why. So, I'm going to tell you a story from the archives from the dark times when I was still super busy with school. And so this incident happened, and there is video, as you can see, but I did not record an episode at the time. In an effort to enhance and contribute to the community I live in, a work colleague of mine is the pastor of a church that has an embedded Cub Scout pack. I agreed to come do some STEM activities for the Cub Scouts there. So we did a drone night during the winter when the weather was cold. You know, as cold as it gets in North Carolina anyway. And that went well enough. I mean, I have some very small drones that have fully shrouded propellers and can't really do a lot of damage. So, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds bouncing drones off of the walls and the light fixtures and other people's faces in the fellowship extension at the church. No harm, no foul. Nobody got hurt. The kids got to fly drones. There was a little bit of crying because he got more time than I did. But, that's how little kids can be. It was okay, though. Generally speaking, it was a good night. And so I promised I would come back and we would do model rockets at some point in the future. So the future came, and what we did, we split it up. We did one night where we just did the build, again, at the fellowship extension hall there, the fellowship hall there at the church. And I supervised them in building some level 1 rockets, which are pretty easy. They got plastic fin section and they're molded. The body tube's already white and the white nose cone. So it was the generic EX2, which is a really easy rocket to put together. We had a few issues because I forgot that I've been building model rockets for 30 years. And these kids are, elementary school kids who have never done anything like this before. So I did everything that had to be done with the X-Acto knife, which I swore these kids didn't require any X-Acto knife work, but they did. So I took care of that. And then we had a couple of issues with glue because my fault. I didn't test fit the parts before we put the glue on them. And then some kids got some parts stuck. But anyway, we worked it out. What we had were functional rockets that were going to fly, or that looked like they were probably going to fly. So then we had some issues with scheduling and weather. Basically, this Cub Scout pack meets on weekday evening, which before we get on daylight savings time, it just gets dark too early. So we were having some issues with that. And also, there was a question of whether we wanted to do the launch session on a weekday or do it on a Saturday when we had free time. And there were some weather constraints, again, because spring in North Carolina. It seemed like every Saturday that we had booked, it rained. Finally, we ended up doing it on a weeknight, and we just said, okay, we're going to meet early because this was right before or right after we switched to daylight time. So the days were starting to get longer, and we had a little bit of daylight to work with. So we're going to meet early. We're meeting at this big rec center. It's got a huge open field. Basically, it's their soccer field, but it wasn't soccer season, so the field wasn't being used. So the idea was we were going to launch on the soccer field and just kind of keep the rockets contained. I bought some 1/2A engines, which if you know anything about Estes model rockets, the 1/2A are really low power, and even the small rockets, they barely get a couple hundred feet in the air. So I bought those just to be safe, but then I brought a couple of higher power rockets, and we'll talk about those later. So we get out there, and I realize I got 2 launch pads, I got 2 launch systems, I got my drone, I got my camcorder, I got my still camera, I got all this equipment, and I realize I'm the only person that knows how to work the rocket launch system, which means I'm going to have to do everything. So no drone flying and no still pictures. I'm just relying on the GoPros that I set at the base, and a couple of parents had their cell phones, but the footage that they sent me, unfortunately, they shared it to me via a group text, and in an effort to get away from the group text because they were texting back and forth all the time, scheduling the kids, and I couldn't figure out how to. I just deleted the whole thread, which means I deleted all the videos too. Whoops, my bad. Let me see. We get out there, the kids show up, we get set up, we start launching rockets. It's going pretty well. You know, the rockets are going up, they're coming back down, the kids are impressed, we're having fun. It's getting late. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna get I'm gonna launch a few that go a little higher just so you can see, and I'm gonna launch some more advanced rockets. So I've got like, I think it's called the Phantom. It's got the little piggyback styrofoam space shuttle thing. And it goes up, and the shuttle disconnects and flies off, and the rocket comes back down on a parachute. It's a pretty simple rocket. Again, it's a like a level 2 build maybe. It's got the plastic fins and everything, but really simple, but it's just fun to have something that detaches and glides. So I shoot one of those up, and I got it on like an A83 or whatever. It goes up, the shuttle detaches, and takes off for the horizon. And I've had this happen before. Like, you don't, when you're throwing these little gliders around your living room, you don't realize how far they'll fly if they're a couple 100 feet off the ground and got a nice breeze. So this thing takes off, and it flies out into the baseball complex. This community center has a big, quadrangle baseball field, the deal where the home plate's in the middle and the 4 outfields go out like a cloverleaf pattern. And they're locked because it's not baseball season yet. So the thing flies off and lands inside one of the baseball fields. I'm like, well, see if the groundskeeper can unlock the gate and go get it later or something, or tomorrow or whatever, because it's starting to get dark. So we're going to do one more launch. This time, I still use a generic, but this time I put like a C motor in it, like a B or C. Something, I think it was a C. This thing goes, and it's a little bit windy. So like I launch it, and this won't show on the photo, but I launched the wind is blowing across the launch pad from right to left. So I weather vane, I cocked the launch pad a little bit and weather vane the rocket so it goes way out to the right, but it goes really, really, really high. And the chute opens, and I guess there's some strong winds upper level because this thing just takes off, zooming to the left. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. It clears the soccer complex. It clears the rec building. We lose sight of it over the building. When we get around to the other side, we can't find hide nor hair of this thing. We don't know if it came down on the roof, if it came down in the parking lot, if it drifted out to the farm adjacent to the rec center. We have no idea where this thing is. It's just gone. Classic case of rocket disappearing. And, the leader of the pack is all, he's like, I think he's upset because he thinks something went wrong. And I'm like, nah, it's fine. And he wants to pay for the rocket. I'm like, no, it's your rocket. It was one of the kit. I just painted it. That's why it looks different. It's like, don't worry about it. We lost the rocket. It happens. Rockets get lost. That's not an unusual thing. But it was just like, where did it? I mean, I spent another 40 minutes walking that parking lot, walking the fence line, looking at all the nearby trees, because again, it's not full spring yet. The trees don't have leaves on them. So like you would see if it was hung in a tree, unless it was an evergreen, and there were 1 or 2 fir trees over there, but nothing, like you think this thing would strand it. It's red, white, and blue, and it's got a big orange and white parachute on it. You think you'd see it, and just nothing, nowhere. So I'm like, okay, where did it go? How far did it drift? Did it drift far enough into this farm that we just can't see it? Is it somewhere off in the deep grass in the hayfield? Don't know. It just gone. I couldn't even be mad because I was showing off, and I knew I was showing off, and I knew if I put a rocket up that high on a field that small that there was a chance that it would get away from me. I don't normally do that. I normally keep my rockets really low if I'm working on like a football field or a baseball field because, once you get beyond the fence line, anything can happen. What I hate is that I was not able to get the drone up and get a drone's eye view or get any good video footage from off the launch pad or get any still photos because, again, one of the things when you're like me and you're kind of the shutterbug guy, you're not satisfied with anybody else's work, especially if you know you're going to put it on YouTube. You always want to shoot your own content, But if you're also the STEM guy, it's like I can't run experiments or run activities for the kids and photograph them and videotape them. Or if we're doing a rocket launch, I can't run two launch pads, because I'm basically acting as a safety officer out there. I'm loading the engines in the rockets. I'm loading the igniters in the rockets. I'm connecting the power. I'm holding the key switch. And even though we got two pads going, we're alternating, and I'm kind of running both to make sure everybody's safe because, again, between the parents and the kids, I'm the only one there with any experience with these model rockets. So, in trying to do all that, I could not fly the drone. I couldn't take photos. I couldn't shoot video because we were really working against sunset. And, we got there at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, in March, sunset's coming pretty quick. But ultimately, it was a successful event. The kids had a good time. The parents were so grateful to have some activities and to do some stuff outside the church. And I'm going to go back and help them. I like doing that stuff. I always have. I consider it one of my responsibilities because people did it for me when I was a Cub Scout 40 years ago or whatever. And I wasn't even in Scouts that long. But particularly in a military community, we really, really relied on the den mothers to carry our Cub Scout packs and, to the point of going to summer day camps with us and using their homes sometimes for our meeting locations and just really going above and beyond for us because the husbands, especially in the 80s, and we were mostly in Germany when I was a scout. For those that don't know, that was still the Cold War, and soldiers, the husbands, the soldiers, because back then most of the soldiers were the husbands. There were a few female, mother soldiers, but that was still kind of rare in the mid 80s, early 80s. They were subject to go on alert, or not really alert, but there were some field exercises that took place in Europe in those days. One of them was called Reforger, Return of Forces to Germany. And these were basically simulating World War III. So when they would go, they would pack up their gear and they'd be gone. So a lot of times it was on the moms to do any kind of extracurricular activities, even coaching sports teams. My mom was my baseball coach for like 3 seasons because my dad was just the nature of his job. When you're a soldier, you're in and out, you come and go. And they couldn't necessarily commit to the schedule of being there every week. So, yeah, I know that when I was a kid, there were a lot of people that sacrificed a lot of time and energy and money to provide enrichment for me. And so it's something that I'm serious about as an adult that I try to provide to other families, even though I don't have kids of my own. I still think it's important to make sure that I provide those kind of activities for those kids. So hopefully inspire one of them to be an engineer or something someday. So anyway, that got way off topic, but I hope you enjoyed this little story, these little videos about model rocket launch with kids. And the other reason why I thought about some of the video the parents sent me, and of course their kids are in the videos, and I don't. I try not to display minors on this channel ever, certainly if they're not mine. And again, I don't have any kids, so better to use the Sky Eye footage from the GoPros because the kids aren't in those. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back soon with more content. Thanks. Bye.